Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Greater Naples. My name is Tony Fisher. I am honored to serve this congregation as its minister, but today I assume the role of worship associate for our guest speaker, the Reverend Skip Lundborg. Skip served the United Methodist Church for 40 years, serving in New York and Connecticut, not just his congregation, but the cause of human good. So we welcome him here this morning, and we welcome especially as a member of our congregation, offering his thoughts this morning. We're grateful too for your presence, as you are there every week. It's great to have you on the other side of that lens. It's great to connect with you in whatever way we can. Whether you found this service by accident and you're wondering what's going on, or whether you've been with us since the virus began 12 weeks ago, we're grateful for your presence this morning. The Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Greater Naples has a mission statement, and it says that we are a welcoming congregation, freely seeking intellectual and spiritual growth, that we strive to create a larger community of peace, justice, and love. And even during this time of separation, we are all encouraged to connect in whatever way we can, to grow in mind and spirit in that connection through our services and through our opportunities for online fellowship. There's also our virtual coffee hour that you connect with after the service or any time during the week to share your thoughts and your concerns during this time of physical separation. During the week, there are Zoom gatherings that you can sign on to. This week, there's spiritual practices on Monday and Wonderful Wednesday on this coming Wednesday. This coming Wednesday especially, a great program, Stories from You, which has been a great, exciting program for us here at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation, brought to us through the work and the passion of Laura Bensman. Opportunities for you to listen to some great stories from people, members of our congregation, and a little bit beyond, telling their stories, meaningful stories for them. It's a great opportunity, so I hope you'll register and sign up for that. And so as we enter into this time together, I hope you'll take a deep breath. Gather yourselves for our worship time, and let's do that by settling in with our morning prelude. I wish I knew how.
As I begin, I want to express thanks to our minister, Tony, for offering me the opportunity to speak today, particularly enjoying the music that Stu provides, and with great appreciation for the technical people who are making this service available to you. Our opening words. Bring who you are to this service. Bring your best self and your struggling self. Bring your mistakes and triumphs. Bring your shortcomings and your recommitment to good. Bring yourself and open your heart to the beauty, to truth, to the door that is open to the Spirit of life. We are trying to walk together in a peaceable way. We come together in word and in silence to remember our promises and vow to live by them once again. I invite you to join in the chalice lighting response. With humility and courage born of our history, we are called as Unitarian Universalists to build a beloved community where all souls are welcome as blessings and the human family lives whole and reconciled. With this in our hearts and minds, we light our chalice. The words to our hymn, "'Tis a Gift to Be Simple," are on the screen.
Our first reading this morning is by the poet, social activist, novelist, playwright, and columnist, Langston Hughes from Joplin, Missouri. Hughes wrote in the early 1900s and through the time of the Depression. His was a powerful black voice at a time when few were being heard. The poem, Mother to Son. Well, son, I'll tell you, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It's had tacks in it, and splinters, and boards all tore up, and places with no carpet on the floor, bare. But all the time I's been a-climbing on, and reaching landings and turning corners, and sometimes going in the dark where there ain't been no light. So boy, don't you turn back. Don't you set down on the steps 'cause you find it kinda hard. Don't you fall now, for I's still going, honey. I's still climbing, and life for me ain't been no crystal stair. Let's join together in singing our centering hymn, O Freedom. So we welcome you into a time of quiet, of meditation, of sharing. I know that each of you there, sitting next to your pads or your computers or even your phones, are wondering when all this will end. And by all this, I mean all this, all the things that we carry both individually and collectively, all those things that trouble us, and too, all those things, despite what goes on in the world, that bring us joy, that lift us up, that give us hope. If you have a chalice to light, a candle to light in honor of someone, a memory, or a hope for someone in the family who's struggling, now's the time to do that. If you've got a rock or a shell to hold on to that brings you connection with all of us here, if you've got something you want to share on the chat, then this is the time to do it. We honor all those things. We honor your presence and your joys and your sorrows in this time together. For me, it is a difficult time without you here, and yet I know that we're making connections across the ether, and you too are connecting with one another, supporting one another, holding each other up, and for that I am extremely grateful. Let's enter now into a time of meditation.
In a world so filled with brokenness and sorrow, it would be easy to lose ourselves in never-ending grief, to be choked by our outrage, to be paralyzed by the enormity of suffering, to feel our hearts squeezed tight with hopelessness. Instead, this morning, let us simply breathe together as we hold our hearts open. Breathing in as our hearts fill with compassion. Breathing out as we pray for healing in our world and in our lives. Breathing in, opening ourselves to the transformative power of love. Breathing out as we pray for peace in our world and in our lives. Breathing in as we hold hope in our hearts. Breathing out as we pray for justice in our world and in our lives. May we know our strength. May we be filled with courage. May our love flow from us into the world. Breathing in, we are the prayer. Breathing out, we are the healing. Breathing in, we are the love. Breathing out, we are the peace. Breathing in, we are the hope. Breathing out, we are the justice. May we know our strength. May we be filled with courage. May our love flow from us into the world. May it ever be so. Now for moments of silence.
Alice Walker is an American novelist, short story writer, poet, and social activist. In 1982, she wrote the novel The Color Purple, which won the Pulitzer Prize and the National Book Award for fiction. Today, I'm honored to read her poem, To Change the World Enough, by Alice Walker. To change the world enough, you must cease to be afraid of the poor. We experience your fear as the least pardonable of humiliations. In the past, it has sent us scurrying off, daunted and ashamed, into the shadows. Now, the world ending, the only one all of us have ever known, we seek the same fresh light you do, the same high place and ample table. The poor always believe there's room enough for all of us. The very rich seem to have heard none of this. In us there is wisdom of how to share loaves and fishes, however few. We do this every day. Learn from us, we ask you. We enter now the dreaded locations of Earth's reckoning. No longer far off or hidden in books that claim to disclose revelations. It is here. We must walk together without fear. There is no path without us. When we first started this time of physical separation, we weren't sure how long this was going to be. And now, 3 months later, we're still meeting like this. It would be nice to stop meeting like this, but there's no plan yet for when we might come together in whatever form on a Sunday morning. And despite this, the work of the congregation continues. Committees are meeting. Fellowship opportunities are made available. The work of keeping the building safe, the staff paid, and the bills paid continues, not to mention the work of connecting with the wider community and doing the work of justice. Grateful for your ongoing support. The ever-wise and always practical Finance Committee wants you to know that the mail is still coming in the door and being checked and processed. And though your contributions are always appreciated in any form, sending checks along for your pledge and for your weekly contributions to the plate is still the preferred method. And since this is going on a lot longer than expected and anticipated, if you have been setting aside your contributions in your own little plate somewhere, periodically it might be good to gather them up and send in a check. It would be appreciated. The journey we are on is strange and wondrous. And while each of us may have hopes for what may be at the end of this journey, let's be grateful for what we have, what we can do, what we can offer in support of one another. The morning's offering for the ongoing work and mission of this congregation will be gratefully appreciated.
The Wizard of Oz, written by L. Frank Baum in 1900, was filmed by MGM in 1939. And it strikes me as a powerful metaphor for our day, as it was when it was written. Dorothy and her dog Toto, swept by a tornado, begin their travels through the foreign land of Oz, seeking the wizard in the Emerald City so they might get back to Kansas. Early on, they begin to assemble an entourage. There is the Tin Man and the Scarecrow. They have joined as they begin to follow the yellow brick road deep in the forest. The road is narrow here, the dark woodland an intimidating presence, holding unknown hurdles and dangers. The threesome wonders about what lies ahead, and Dorothy asks, "Do you suppose we'll meet any wild animals?" The Tin Man responds, "We might." "Animals that eat straw?" asks the Scarecrow. "Some, but mostly lions and tigers and bears." Then, arm in arm, they gather themselves together and venture out into what none of them has ever seen before. They are buoyed by each other because alone they would be too frightened. And they begin chanting together, softly at first and then more boldly, "Lions and tigers and bears, oh my. Lions and tigers and bears, oh my. Lions and tigers and bears, oh my." This image of their journey into the unknown seems to be remarkably like the journey that all of us have been on in these last months. It is true that ours is quite different in terms of landscape. On the one hand, nothing has changed. And on the other hand, everything has changed. We are not traveling a yellow brick road. In fact, most of us go nowhere. The few excursions we make take us to familiar places that we have never been before. The grocery store. But now, is full of masked forms trying to follow the arrows that dictate where they should go, where previously we were totally free to roam free. Sometimes we are guided to empty aisles that have heretofore always overflowed with choices. Like actors, we are directed to hit our marks. In this case, circles or X's or a line on the floor. Lions and tigers and bears have been replaced. Our refrain is closer to COVID and masks and distance, oh my. So why is it that I say they are remarkably alike? Because they are both journeys into fear and the unknown, even if we do not travel to experience it. It has come to us unbidden, no less so than a trip through a dank forest. Prior to the arrival of COVID-19, we had managed fairly well the task of living. To be sure, we've suffered some bumps and bruises. There have even been times of serious wounds. We have known and suffered the death of loved ones. Torn relationships have left their scars. We have been betrayed. And honesty compels us to acknowledge the instances of our betrayal as well. We have known what it is to be loved, to feel the exultation, the safety, the pleasure of being loved. We have experienced the thrill of loving, of enthusiastically throwing ourselves at the enterprise, wholeheartedly, our minds and our hearts so full of the other that we have been euphoric. We've also stumbled. Our coping devices have sometimes led us to lose our way. Alcohol for some, drugs for others, mistreating ourselves by overeating, smoking, addictions, habits to numb that which will not go away. We have also found redeeming friendships, counsel, and therapies that have been restorative. Yes, indeed, most of us have managed. Some of the threats in our lives we face by softening the consequences. We insure against them. Our health insurance, our home insurance, our car insurance, our life insurance, all of them are at risk. And we have learned that anything for the right price can be insured. And why do we do that? Because some things are inevitable. And others can occur with great cost, whose risk we try to manage and mitigate by planning. The arrival of this virus is such a stark reminder of our uninsured vulnerability. Even those of us who are uninfected are affected. Many others have addressed the important impacts that our lives are stressed with now. There is separation for everyone, which especially weighs on those who live alone. For those of us with residential companion or companions, there is the constant having to get along with an unremitting presence. Cabin fever. How ironic that at the very time we need each other to ease our load, the presence of others may cause dis-ease. Do you have it? Do I have it? Deaths have reached 116,000 families and loved ones just in the United States. And they have been denied the chance for ritual, for storytelling, for remembering together those whom they have loved. Unemployment peaked around 43 million. Those are our neighbors, with bills piling up, food costs, mortgages, rent. And there's a whole generation of students from kindergarten through graduate school that are finding that its life has become remote. And then, add to all that the abuse of power that we are seeing by those to whom it has been entrusted. And our cities erupt with seething pain long suffered. We saw it again just last night in the death of Sherrod Brooks in Atlanta. My white privilege is still revealing itself to me, but this is clear, that among the list of chanted names at all of these rallies here and around the world, there is not a single white name. The deaths of black men at the hands of police officers is not the only evidence of racism by far. Consider who it is that consists the greatest group of those who are uninsured, underemployed, unemployed, disenfranchised in our nation. We all participate in fact or in silence with the righteous demonstrations and the burning of our cities by our complicity. Many of those in power seek to repress rather than redress the underlying illnesses affecting us all. This is also new to us, that the world's reality is confused and confusing. The messages we have leave us less secure. New phrases emerge almost every day. Lockdown, herd immunity, contact tracing, antigens, vaccine, second wave, curfew, National Guard. So yes, we are vulnerable now in ways that we have never known before. Most of this vulnerability is disheartening, oppressive, and burdensome. COVID and masks and distance. Oh my. But before we disappear in a trough of despair, let us acknowledge other things that are also real and also happening right now and are true. They are vital, in fact. Well, one side of vulnerability is focusing on dangers and threats that require avoidance. There is something else going on. Consider with me the heroes that have emerged in this pandemic: farm workers, landscapers, orderlies, grocery clerks, trash pickup, mail workers. They join the so-called frontline heroes that are so much more frequently celebrated. Acknowledge also the neighbors who arrive after the looting to clean up and repair the damages wrought. So, vulnerability at this time of forced withdrawal has become heroism. To care for and about other people is to declare our vulnerability. And in doing so, we become heroic. To dance, to sing, to love, to laugh, to demonstrate, to seek justice, even to mourn. These are the irresistible consequences of opening ourselves to another. To run the risk of harm and hurt is the only way to connect with another human being. In the end, there is no option. To have or to be a friend, we must say, here I am. This is me. We risk rejection, and we suffer loneliness when we shut up. We are not, after all, the doomsdayers and survivalists camped out in some isolated spot off the grid, armed with weapons against the intruders who will come to steal our hoarded supplies. We are a people of nevertheless. The aforementioned hazards are real. They do exist. They may happen to us. Nevertheless, we decry the violence that power uses to crush folk, especially those on the margins, people of color in particular. We insist on justice. This is our road. Dorothy and friends reached the Emerald City, and they found there a wizard of bellowing voice and menacing talk. They unveiled the phony behind the curtain and discovered that the journey itself had provided what it was they were seeking: heart and brain and courage. These had never been something that the wizard could grant. They belonged. We too insist on looking behind the curtain. We insist on naming the folly of bluster in high places for what it is. This is where our journey leads us. The end of Alice Walker's piece that Tony read earlier needs repeating. We enter now the dreaded location of Earth's reckoning, no longer far off or hidden in books that claim to reveal revelation. It is here. We must walk together without fear. There is no path without us. We have linked arms with others who try to stay on the path, sometimes timidly and sometimes boldly. And nevertheless, we have found a home on the way with companions of vision. The journey is our home, naming dangers for what they are, clinging to each other for our very lives. Lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. Our closing hymn is Let Freedom Span Both East and West. Blessed is the path on which you travel. Blessed is the body that carries you on it. Blessed is your heart that has heard the call. Blessed is your mind that discerns the way. Blessed is the gift you will receive by going. Truly blessed is the gift that you will become on the journey. May you go forth in peace.